Now I'm going to make the laminated substrate for the doors and the drawer fronts. And to use that, I'm going to laminate a couple of sheets of this bendable plywood. Some people call it wiggle wood. It's about 3/8 inch thickness, what I have. You can see how easily it bends. I'm going to laminate that with some veneer cross-banded, that is with the grain going the opposite direction as the grain on this bendable plywood, to make the curved laminates. But the wiggle wood here is a little bit rough, or the bendable plywood is a little bit rough, so I'm going to first try to smooth it off a little bit before I go and laminate the veneer crossband. Now let's get on with making the laminate stack. I'm going to glue a piece of veneer made up between these two pieces of bendable plywood, and then we'll glue a piece of veneer to the top and the bottom, and then we'll put it into the bag. And now the laminate is made up, it's in the vacuum bag, and we're pulling vacuum, clamping it to form. And here's the glued up panel for the drawer fronts, and I just wanted to show you how the curve of the drawer fronts matches the curve of the stretcher frame. So these drawer fronts will look very nice with that same curve. I'm ready to veneer the curved drawer front. When I glued up the laminates, I had a little bit of bleed through of the glue, so I'm going to go ahead and sand that smooth using my downdraft table that will suck the dust through these slots in the table into some filters so I don't have to breathe that. I am now taping up the veneers for the front and back of the drawer fronts. Now the drawer fronts are curved, and so I made a single curved substrate on which I will glue the veneers, and then I'll go ahead and cut that substrate into the 3 drawers, each a little over 6 inches tall. And that way I'll have a good matching pattern of figure from the first top drawer, middle drawer, and bottom drawer. This veneer and the substrate I've cut extra long to allow for that division and any little trimming that will have to happen. Wet my tape. My veneer tape, I'm using the solid veneer tape because this will not be the glue side. So it doesn't matter that the tape has some thickness to it. Glue on about six of these cross pieces. Try to get my joints fairly tight, although the tape will shrink and draw the joint together. This last piece of tape on here on the bottom, and then I'll be ready to put one piece of tape right down the middle. Notice how the moisture in the tape has a tendency to make the veneer want to start buckling a little bit. Gotta watch that. It expands the veneer, that's what it does. Get the iron on here, dry it out. This should flatten it out as well. The iron is set on medium heat. Then, using the veneer saw and my straight edge, I will cut these veneers to the required 20-inch width. Then I mark the substrate panel for where the veneer will go, so that after I put the glue on, I can line up the veneer, and if I do everything right, the top veneer will line up exactly with the bottom veneer on these panels. And now I'm ready to glue the veneer onto the substrate and get it into the vacuum bag. Once again, I'm using Better Bond veneered glue. I'm using the light color so that if there is any bleed through, it will not be noticeable on the light colored veneer. I apply it with a roller, trying to get it to the thickness of heavy paint. I work quickly so that the glue doesn't skin over before I can get it into the vacuum bag. And you may notice that I'm veneering with the veneer grain at right angles to the face grain on the panel that I made up. And that just gives us a little more stability, dimensional stability, makes it a little more like plywood is made. And I got to be careful to make sure the orientation stays consistent. Up is up on both the front and the back. A little bit of spritzer water just to keep the veneer from curling up. And then I place my hardboard on here. Use a little bit of tape. This time I'm using the blue tape. I found it a little easier to use than the veneer tape, and it doesn't really make much difference in thickness for what I'm doing. Okay. Up is still up. Let's go ahead and do the back. Alright, just double check my lineups here, make sure that they look good. Alright, we're ready to go into the bag. Okay, things are looking good. Go ahead and slide the form back on the platen. I'm going to put a little bit of this mesh plastic on top. This is enables the air to flow freely through the bag. And I have another small piece of the mesh plastic that I'm going to put under the valve for the same reason. Take my closure device. Okay, looks like I'm ready to draw a vacuum. I've already got my compressor going. I've charged up my vacuum pump tanks. There we go. Okay, the vacuum pump is stopped. We've got about 24.5 inches of mercury for about 12.5 pounds per square inch all across the form. It's been about 2 hours since we put the laminate here into the bag, so let's go ahead and cut off the air, pull it out, see what we have. Pull off our tape here. Looks like it turned out very nicely. There appear to be any voids. Now I'm going to go ahead and set this up and let it cure for a few more hours before we do anything, but the glue is all set and it was a good glue up. Everything should be just fine.